So, I am walking through the Pearl District, an area that's gone through a lot of change in recent years. It's certainly become the higher end part of Portland. And I'm walking through this district to get to the bowels of Portland, which is downtown just to the right. But yeah, this is the residential skyscraper district, and I lived in this area in the late 90s before it became super high-end. Notice how the swastika of Chase Bank is becoming more predominant. I remember when Washington Mutual went out of business back in 2008, 2009, these large swastikas started to emerge all over our cities. And this is how stupid some people are. People don't actually recognize that shape, that symbol, nor do most people even know about the banker bailout, how that was a bipartisan bank robbery, leaving the American taxpayers footing the bill. So only time will tell what the effect of that great bank robbery will be. But in the meantime, life is still good. Money is still being printed, and we'll continue that way. The only real alchemy taking place is the human art of extracting resources from the ground, from Mother Nature, and doing what we want with those natural resources. Self-worship, vanity, all things that are not exactly the most spiritual. So alchemy means many things to many people. It's really about what you choose to do with the earth elements, whether it be done out of consciousness or done out of human greed and human unconsciousness, which we see all around us. I talk a lot about the counterfeit image of Portland being a green-friendly city, and this fits in with that. Here we see the concrete jungle, so much suffering around us, so many divides between the have and have-not, and this really symbolizes the false image of greenery. I'm sure these plants are real, but they might as well be plastic. Because part of being in tune with nature, as a lot of you know, deals with humanity recognizing the oneness concept. And unfortunately, it's too many people that are in the mentality of class warfare. So when they exit the mentality of class warfare, then they're more in line with nature, being green-friendly. In the meantime, all this will appear to me as to be something that might as well resemble plastic plants, because it's all decorative to hold up the image that we're a green-friendly city when we're anything but green-friendly. And we're going to continue our tour of Mini Babylon. Again, this wasn't here 10, 15 years ago when I lived in this general area. And yes, there's quite a few Starbucks in this particular area as well. And here we are, the Pearl Court Apartments, where I lived on the 4th floor. And this was my second apartment. And in the latter part of 1999, I moved out. And between the years 99 and 2004 were pretty intense years for me. I'll cover that in a future book. But one of the pluses about living in this particular building, not only is it a secure building and a low-income building, or at least it used to be, but you got the balconies over here and also on each side of the building. And at that time, rent was about $442 a month. I'm sure rent is probably more like $600 or $700 a month now. And this is another example of an old warehouse that was turned into an area with multiple shops, things of that nature. The post office is right over there. And Powell's Books is probably about 8 or 9 blocks that way. So this video isn't going to be entirely negative. You know, we'll look at some of the artistic aspects of the Pearl. And I'm not going to go through all the streets in the Pearl, just some of them. But obviously they left this part of the building intact and tore open this part of it to make a parking lot. And then they got shops and things of that nature inside, which I'm not really interested in looking at, having already been in the building 12 years ago. I'm noticing more things in this walk. Here's another ugly building complex. And also, think about how much money people are spending to live in these little boxes. And they'll never own it. It's part of the lifestyle. I love it. Pearl District Dentist. Even the elitists of Portland need dentists. High-end dentistry work. Oh, I bet it's fun being in this place. Dentists that actually care. I wonder if these dentists know anything about coconut oil pulling. I'm going to go ahead and give them the benefit of the doubt and assume that they do. Granted, there's actually heavy money involved in dental care, probably at this particular facility, which is adjourning the massive apartment complex, which I just pointed out. Alright, we're going to look at some advertising here. Bear your beauty. And if you look right here, it says lunchbox. I don't know if you can read it. I can. It says lunchbox, and there's a lot of focus in the area where the female vagina is located. So, more Portland perversion. Now, one thing I'll never forget is walking around this area back in 1992 when I was 12 years old. It was a very different Pearl District then, and I remember going on an art gallery walk with my mother and her boyfriend at the time, and old Portland in the early 90s reminded me of how Gotham City is depicted in Batman, not only in the movies, but Portland was a much more violent, crime-ridden city in the past. It still is, in a way, although a lot of the government corruption has superseded organized crime and low-level crime. But a major transformation has taken place in the Pearl District. You could see it. You could see it all around you. You could see how, you know, there's a mix of old Portland, and we're seeing the emergence of the new Portland, higher end, as opposed to the older Pearl District, which was mostly warehouses. It was mostly empty buildings. So you're going to have a number of perspectives on gentrification and Portland popularity. Some people like it. Some people are in a position to profit from the gentrification on steroids that we're seeing, and then some people are positioned to suffer from it. So it's an excellent city to examine the expanding have and have not reality. Sociologists should be all over the Portland area studying this place. But yeah, there's a lot of pain and suffering in these streets, though, even though they've changed the physical appearance. Drug addiction, prostitution, things of that nature. And we're actually heading towards Old Town Chinatown, the epicenter of Portland's dark side, past, present, and perhaps future. Here we have a blanket here and a empty water bottle full of urine, so we could see the coexistence between the have and have-nots. And here we have a Darth Vader Star Wars. How appropriate. There's definitely a big focus on the concrete jungle look. So even though Portland has an image, a false image, of being a green-friendly city, it really has a hardcore, rough and tumble, concrete jungle look. Now, this is the North Park blocks, and historically, this has always been a problem area. You'll notice some stores and businesses, but historically, this has been kind of the rougher area. It's also a resting place. So there's typically over years, this has been a problem area. Some of you may have heard about the movie, What the Bleep Do We Know? They actually shot a scene from that movie right over here in this basketball court. What the Bleep Do We Know is the name of that movie. Here's that ugly looking building from a distance. Okay, we're right off of Park and Burnside, and for those that don't know, the term Skid Row originated here, and that same sad, depressed slavery energy still exists in 2014, even though the buildings have changed. Here's an example of one building that popped up. Now, you've heard me talk about the fact that if you know how to work the system, and if you're a drug addict, you can get free housing. Of course, there are drug tests involved. You can't be using while living in the building. But this is one of those buildings that's owned by Central City Concern to kind of document the fact that, you know, if you've made mistakes, and with drugs and alcohol, you can get a place to stay, but if you're not on drugs and alcohol, there's nowhere for you to go. So this is one way of many, that Portland is kind of a strange, bizarre, Twilight Zone type of a matrix. One thing also about these places, they make you go to AA. The foundation of AA is mind control, is negative affirmation that you are born with a disease, when in reality drug addiction is learned behavior based on environmental factors. But they don't teach that here. So isn't it ironic that all this money from the taxpayers went into this building, but they keep the building in the drug zone. They keep the building in the crack zone. And that's a very big part of the Portland tradition, is keeping the so-called recovering drug addicts in the zone. We're crossing Burnside and Broadway. This historically has been one of the badder neighborhoods in downtown as well. You can still see evidence of lots of things. I'm not going to be filming everything, and you can't really get a vibe for it until you actually walk down the street and feel the despair. But there is no doubt in my mind that this area in general is the most haunted area in the Portland area. We're on 6th and Burnside now, and this area has not really changed much, but it's less spooky than it used to be. This is an old concert hall. Now, every Portlander that's aware of the money that's hemorrhaging out of the city, especially towards our projects that cost an extremely ridiculous, inflated amount, whenever I'm with a real Portlander that understands the city's waste of money, every time we walk upon our project, the question is, how much do you think this cost? But here we have a mural that says, "This is the green story of the green man of Portland." And there he is. He's all, yeah, I'm gonna write me an Indian. Buried, chopped. Each burial brings 1,000 new lives. Roots. It began with all things, as all things do. A bird, a seedling, a fire. Yeah, then man came, set up his brothels. Then man came to Portland, set up his strip clubs. Then man came to Portland and started kidnapping men off the Willamette River. Yeah, Portland's got a dark past that Portlanders, the ego, the collective ego, will not admit. And that's why this is a crack cocaine zone and a heroin zone. It's the energetic construct of suffering that keeps on giving into the next decade. And this building is called the Big Pink. It's owned by U.S. Bank. And my uncle on my mother's side operated the crane in the early 70s when they were constructing this building. Now we're approaching 5th and Burnside. This is the Roseland, by the way. It's a concert hall. Mostly rock and rap groups perform here. This is Right to Dream 2, one of the homeless shelters in Portland. And the owner of this property is in some sort of a feud with the city, which is why this was put here. And then there's a sign here that says for sale. So this is probably going to end up being another housing project for Central City Concern because of the location, because it's on Burnside. Just got a real strong whiff of urine. The one reason I came down here today is because my spirits are somewhat strong and my body feels strong. Otherwise, for the most part, I try to stay away from this area. On my TV show, you've seen me show videos of people fighting in Portland, different things going on in the club district. All that happens just a block that way over the weekend. A block that way every weekend. It's pretty crazy. They actually set it up to where cars can't drive up and down this area. Oh, sidewalk is closed. And instead of things being for the most part cooler, you'll only have more problems, more drunks, more issues. And in that case, it's good for the police because they engage in more arrests and they get to practice. So it's fun for them. Meanwhile, Voodoo Donuts is spinning their voodoo about a block that way. And so for the most part, this is the major drug zone. We're at Burnside and 3rd, going to many blocks that way, and blocks that way, and the rivers that way. And this was the area where they would Shanghai people during the early days of Portland, Oregon. We're walking one block towards the bridge. This is another testimony to the obsession with darkness, pain, suffering, bondage. Even though this isn't a sex club, this is just another business of Portland that has a fixation with pain, suffering, and urban blight. Must I say any more? So this is Burbati's Pan in Old Town Chinatown. And the doormen here, the bouncers here, might as well be mafia hitmen because the way that they conduct themselves when they're on the job, they do some pretty shitty stuff. Just like the police. You know, there's a lot of focus on the police. There should also be focus on security organizations and bouncers that are licensed through the state but still engage in violent behavior towards patrons. And I've seen a lot of stuff go down outside this place. So this building is also a building of great evil. This is the Shanghai Tunnel. They are actually monetizing over the reality that people were kidnapped from here 150 years ago. So sick Portlanders and tourists like to come here to find out where the people were kidnapped. But that actually digesting what that actually means from a metaphysical perspective, this city's chakras are fucked the fuck up. And it probably needs an earthquake. It probably needs to see a major event go down to where people actually care about each other again. So we're sitting in probably one of the most haunted, sick, demented acupuncture points of the Portland area right here, in conjunction with the next block over. And we're briefly going to walk through Saturday Market over here. Saturday Market is open for the most part year-round except the winter. The last day of operation is Christmas Eve, and then it's closed for a couple of months. So as far as counterculture and locally made goods, this is about as good as it gets. It's nice to see that Saturday Market is still in operation, but for the most part, this is all the hippie that's left of Portland. That's all that's left. For the most part, Portland is an extremely selfish, gentrified city that's all about physical appearances, but what little hippie energy does exist, you can find here. Although it isn't very affordable. It isn't very affordable necessarily to rent a booth here, but there is some good vibes that you can, somebody just waved, there are some positive vibes that you can feel here. And so that's why I'm walking through here for a minute. This is the Max, one of several light rail systems that we have, which is also a part of Agenda 21, having people connected, the major cities connected by light rail. Now, this used to be an extension of Saturday Market, and it became the Mercy Corps building a couple of years ago. But there are some locally made goods that you can find here, paintings, t-shirts. There's actually somebody that has a Portland version of the Monopoly game board. And we are coming up on the waterfront. I feel like stand over by the river for a minute. Now, in recent years, they've moved Saturday Market, part of it over here, whereas it used to be under the bridge. So they moved to make way for the Mercy Corps building. I actually came here 15 years ago and had one done for myself, believe it or not. This is one of the bright spots of Portland that still does remain. For now. So for now, we'll take a look. Some of these vendors have been here for years and years and years. And I actually remember riding my bike to Saturday Market when I was like 11, 12, a very long time ago. Another positive thing, I'm not hearing any Christmas music, but then again, I've got headphones on. And we've got more art here. This looks like a newer spot. I don't remember this years ago. And, of course, more tie-dye t-shirts. More photography, more art, flutes, natural wood. So yeah, you don't find this at your local Walmart. That's actually pretty nice. And that would be up by 13th and Burnside. There's definitely an underground underneath that bar. That's to keep people from jumping in the river. I'm just kidding.
I'm not scared, I just love the flavor.
A lot of decent food here. Not the best prices, but... And this is the Willamette River. It used to be said in old Portland, the closer you get to the river, the more dangerous it became. Probably one of the most polluted rivers in an urban environment, debunking the commonly held belief that Portland is a green city. Portland is not a green-friendly city. Portland is a dark city that seems to attract certain elements. In particular, people that are going through extreme pain and suffering, which just adds more to the drug problem and the great divide between the have and have-nots. This is a city to learn about human suffering and human greed. This is the place. This is the place where you study how Babylon has fallen so hard on its face. And there's probably a direct link between how kinky people are here in this general area and city and complete decimation, desecration, complete pollution of our river. Because we're mostly made of water, and because our waterways are completely contaminated, there's got to be a connection between human consciousness, human suffering, and the polluted Willamette River. In fact, I have dreams about it, powerful dreams, where I can feel the sickness of this river in conjunction with the whole past of people that were kidnapped all through this area. And then every year the military industrial complex shows up in the form of the Navy, and people come and take a look at the Navy ships. They're usually parked all along here, the weapons of war. There's a big obsession with war machines and things of that nature, and Waterfront Park is a place where periodically those weapons of war are displayed. One other thing I want to add, even though marijuana is legal in Oregon, it's legal to own, it's legal to smoke, it's been decriminalized. Behind me is one of the only places in Portland where you can find weed on the street. For the most part, it's not the easiest thing to find, unless you actually know somebody, which is possible, but there's a lot of people that are, for the most part, still paranoid through generations of police state programming. Now, for years, this has been an all ages nightclub. I remember coming here when I was 13 or 14, but this is also the location of a mass shooting that occurred a couple years ago, where a guy walked up this block and shot a number of people that were waiting in line to get inside this nightclub. So this nightclub, along with a lot of other places in Portland, has a lot of past history, which is not the most positive. This is one of those places that goes in the category of most haunted places in Portland due to the historical past in this particular region. Really nasty place. I won't really get into details, but kind of place where youngsters learn about certain things a little quickly. But crossing the street here to a less satanic part of Portland, looks like there's an ambulance there. Okay, so nothing's going on outside. They must be going inside. So we're outside Cameron's Books, and I was just talking to the owner, and I got confirmation, yes, people continue to break this guy's windows, and sometimes it's better to just leave it boarded up because of how mentally deranged people are in this general area. But it is true that this small business owner is repeatedly targeted. And over here, you've got some issues here. These are, sounds like there's some threatening behavior going on. I see one guy screaming at somebody else, and he's spitting at him.
Well, You gonna videotape it? Hi.
I saw you spit at somebody. Okay? I ain't no weakling. I ain't gonna let you just beat somebody up. So I'm gonna observe.
I didn't hit anybody.
You're yelling at a woman. That's all I know.
No, it wasn't the chick. It was the dude.
Well, since we're on the topic of Portland collapsing, straight to the point, opened up before I lost my job at Ruth Chris Steakhouse over there that became the Church of Satanism, the Church of Scientology. And piercings, that all deals with self-hate, mutilation, pain, suffering, things of that nature, all Portland favorites and classic traditions. And again, Church of Scientology here replaced Ruth Chris Steakhouse a couple years ago. Following Ruth Chris Steakhouse went out of business completely, at least in Portland. Unfortunately, they moved over to Broadway. But a lot of propaganda in here. A lot of merchandise, a lot of things that I agree with. I just don't agree that Scientology is the way to happiness. See, there's a lot of mind control going on here. Happiness, success, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, they want people to do it through Scientology. That makes it a religion. Oh, be able, be capable. Of course we know about drugs and their effect on the mind. And Scientology is not a fan of the pharmaceutical industrial complex. But they just talk about the pharmaceutical industrial complex just to gain more interest in Scientology being the solution. I've never really understood or known what that symbol means. But this used to be an extra room, and I've worked in this room many, many nights bussing tables for groups of 20, 25, 30, playing the male version of Cinderella without waiting for a knight in shining armor to help my ass out. But yeah, many years I've worked in this place before it became the church of whatever the hell you see here. Moving along, this is also another housing project right here that houses people that are suffering from mental illnesses, and a lot of people that are on SSI, Section 8 are right here. So again, there's a mix of commerce, mental illness, drug addiction, and a history of Shanghai, kidnapping, and the city running brothels. And going up this street, now this building, they have outpatient drug treatment and DUI classes just to further document how much of an issue substance abuse is in the Portland area. A lot of sad people here, a lot of mentally ill people here that aren't even homeless. So here on the 7th building is where people that get DUIs go. At least that's how it used to be. I'm not sure how much has changed. Look, you can be married or you can be living on the street. How picturesque is that? So we're coming up on the Multnomah County Health Building right over here, and for those of you that have seen the intro, the new intro to Outside the Box TV, you may recognize a scene where a guy's hands were being put behind his back and his wrist actually pinched, and all that happened in this particular building here, Multnomah County Health Department. And even though it's in the middle of a cesspool, this is one of the highlights of Portland. This is one of the better areas to get some food. You've heard about a lot more carts in Portland serving food. So we're at the corner of Oak and 5th. And there's an Indian place that's over here that is my personal favorite. And I believe it's right down there. And right down there is the corner of Washington Street, I believe. So Washington 5th is where the Indian spot is. But it's also a pretty intense place to be as well. And you just got to see it and experience it and be here to believe it. But you might go run home to mama, and it might not be a pretty scene with tears bursting out of your eyes. Again, this city may make you a more spiritual person, or it could suck you down the way a toilet sucks down fecal matter. And we've got the American Red Cross over here in the city of energy vampires. There they are getting more blood. Maybe it's a blood drive. I wonder if Count Dracula is in the house. Count Dracula is visiting Portland. And this is another example of Portland's obsession with sexuality. And there's actually a statue over there, about a block closer to 5th and Burnside, featuring a former mayor exposing himself. Today it's considered a crime, but back in the late 70s that was considered art. So there's a big difference between nudity and a big difference between exposing yourself. So this is just something I want to point out. This is Pioneer Courthouse Square, where the bulk of outdoor events other than Waterfront Park take place. Events that are small enough to fit inside this space. And it's called a public space because back in the day when they created the square, people put up money for each one of those bricks. But despite the fact that that is publicly owned, you can't smoke on it, you can't film with a tripod. There's a lot of things you can't do. There's a lot of rules for a public space. So this is one of those places to see how the Portland police state is alive and well. Here's a building here that they've been working on for probably 10 years, 15 years. They've never finished building this. This is the epitome of bureaucracy right here. They have never finished constructing this. They've had 15 years. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they're doing black magic orgies in there. I don't know what they're doing. All I know is they have never finished constructing this place. This place has been under construction for 15, 20 years. This place may have been under construction since the day I was born in 1980 for all I know. But whatever they're doing looks kind of cool. Looks like they've got a cool little stairway set up. And maybe the whole thing's just a front for some eyes wide shut shit. And I'm just joking. I'm just being humorous. But there are those of us here in Portland that truly do wonder. Now see what happens if you try to jump on the grass. They'll act like this is Washington, D.C. They'll act like the reason why is because traditionally this area here has been the spot for gutter punks. And some of the less desirable, more obnoxious panhandling traditionally takes place in this general area. Over here we've got Homeland Security. They're always fun to talk to. Let's walk over that way. See, animal cruelty right here. Animal cruelty. Putting cheap Chinese goods, likely with traces of formaldehyde, on these cute little seals. Mankind, of course, trying to recreate the animal world in its image. So sad. So sad. Another new hotel. This popped up in the last decade. This used to be Myron Frank. Now it's Macy's. Not really a whole lot to talk about in terms of that. It's a nice little social engineering playground, surrounded by industry, surrounded by commerce. Starbucks coffee. Got Nordstrom over here. I used to actually work here at one time and shop at Nordstrom, and I actually recovered from the delusions that I used to have as a younger man, and they involve materialism. But this is where you see humanity's fall, right here in this particular zone. And there's actually a store where you can find $300 shirts, upwards of that. It's called Mario's, and it's up there a few blocks. Now, if you want to waste money, you can just take a $100 bill and you can burn it, or you can go to Ruth Chris Steakhouse and do the same thing. But it's all a matter of impressing the wife. It's all a matter of loving someone with money. If someone really loves steak, I can recommend well over 10 places to go in Portland where you can eat a good steak. This is an example of a high-priced steakhouse, but the quality of the meat, the taste of the meat is in the gutter. It's in the toilet. It's really not there. It's all a matter of pretending you got money and impressing your girlfriend and impressing your wife. That's all Ruth Chris Steakhouse is good for, and impressing the people that you're trying to invest in. So there's a lot of corporate parties. Again, I got 5 years experience working for Ruth Chris Steakhouse. It's all about image, and that's why the plates come out splattering with butter that could put your eye out. It's all about the perception of wealth, the perception of value, the perception of quality. But if you look deeper at the heart and soul of Ruth Chris Steakhouse, it's pretty toxic. There are far better restaurants that you can find to eat at other than this place. There's another disgusting, ugly skyscraper over there. Let's go take a look. Now right next to, on the other side of Nordstrom's. This is what it looks like from Pioneer Courthouse Square. There's a Christmas tree, as I mentioned, in 2010. They told the people of Portland that a terrorist tried to blow that up. In reality, it was the FBI. Really sad place this downtown zone is. So I'm not going to spend too much time here, otherwise the sickness will start infecting me. My spirit is only so strong, albeit it feels kind of strong today. That's why I'm down here. Let's go over and look at that building. Now on CBS News in the 90s, they talked about the FBI put that guy up to blow up the World Trade Center in 1993. That means the FBI was involved in trying to ferment something back in the 90s. Back in the 90s. The threats aren't here. They are building things up for a World War scenario. And he's doing some welding here. So this is another building that's going up in Portland. And how many of the people that are going to be living here aren't even in Portland yet, that are still waiting for their job transfer? How many homeless are going to end up sleeping on the outside of this building? We're going to see all of that and crime explode, including human trafficking, all here in the Rose City in the next decade. But nobody cares. It's time to shop. Anyways, last thing I would do is yell at construction workers. They're just doing their job. This is another one of those wide open spaces here. We've got a couple police with horses. I wonder if they know about the secret mass arrest of last week. Maybe I'll go let them know. Well, that's all for now. That was just a brief walking tour of part of Portland. I'm tired now. My energy is drained, and it's only because I had excess energy to release that I even went downtown. So I'm leaving while I'm ahead, even though my foot really, really hurts. I'm now heading back to the trailer for rest and food.